So a lot more options with these two, right? These two are up there and probably the most fidgetable knives. Let's even throw in the CJRB Pyrite. So this guy is very fidget friendly, right? So the way it works, you push the button and you don't just leave it pressed. You have to push and let go. Push and let go, swing your hand and it opens, push and let go, and it folds shut, right? That's it. Simple as that. So that is one thing that there are no questions about with Civivi knives, right? They come super sharp out of the box. Hello and what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Miguel. You're watching Miguel EDC. So is the Civivi Elementum Button Lock a good budget option? Is it still king this year, right? Is it still a possibility, a knife that you should consider buying if you're first getting into the hobby, or maybe you're looking for the next knife to buy, next knife to purchase here? This guy has a lot in store for it. So let's get into it here throughout the video. We're going to be answering that very question. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, so you know exactly what we're getting into here. This is the OG button lock. There's now a new version of this guy, which is called the Civivi Elementum Button Lock 2. So it would be like combining the OG Elementum and the button lock Elementum and then putting all into the chassis for the original one. So I have like a button right here. But this is the OG Elementum. This is the OG Elementum button lock, which is a larger knife, as you can see. Let's get some quick measurements on this guy here right off the bat, talking about overall length. This guy is going to come in at, or definitely over 8 inches actually. So exactly 8 inches in length. So it's going to be a whole 1 inch longer than the OG Elementum, right? This button lock, right? I think the reasoning here is that the blade has to be a little bit longer for the button lock being the only deployment option for that all to work out, right? So if you want to swing the blade open, it has to be a certain length, a certain weight. Blade cutting edge is going to be 3 1/4. Total blade length is going to be around a little bit over 3 1/2. The full handle here is going to be around 4 1/2. So those are your measurements right there. Let's do some quick comparisons here since we already have the OG Elementum right here, right? So OG Elementum is a little bit smaller. I feel like as soon as I got a chance to experience the Elementum button lock and feel the size of it, I'm like, this is the size that the Elementum should have came in from the get-go, right? And I wouldn't surprise if at some point they add a flipper tab to this bigger size Elementum. So I'll talk more about that as the video progresses later on. But yeah, that is one thing that definitely stuck out for me. Since we're in the Civivi family, right? Let's toss in a Civivi Ortis, right, for some quick size comparisons right there. You guys be the judge of that. Definitely the button lock there, you know, 8 inches overall is going to be the biggest one of them all. Let's compare it to the Spyderco's. Here's the Para 2. PM2, Paramilitary 2, and the Para 3, right? There you are. So yeah, somewhere in between the Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3, right? Definitely smaller than the Para 2, bigger than the Para 3. Let's do a quick Demco brothers, right? Side by side. So this guy is going to be bigger than the Demco 80 20.5 versions, both of them. The shark's foot blade and the clip point blade right there. Yep, you guys saw it. Definitely probably like a ½ inch, a good ½ inch, or maybe a ¼ inch longer right there. By the way, I'm EDCing these guys right now as we speak. Can't wait to show you guys the review video, right? Can't wait to share that with you guys. Keeping it in the We Knives Civivi Sencut family, right? Sencut is a subsidiary of We Knife. Civivi is also a sister brand to We Knife, so they're all under the same We Knife umbrella there. And so comparing it side by side, I want to say it is exactly very close, if not the same size as the Sencut Crawley right there, right? You guys will be the judge of that. And it's maybe a hair bigger than the Saxy, right? The Saxy is shorter than the Crawley. It has a, you know, thicker blade, of course, but yeah, very comparable knives right there. You guys let me know. And the thing about these guys, and these are also button locks, right? So one gripe I'm going to get into later on, actually I maybe shouldn't spoil it, is the fact that these guys have multiple deployment options, right? Whereas the button lock, Civivi button lock, for the price, actually this guy comes in a little bit more money than the Sencut variants there. So we'll get more into that later on. Now those other guys have a lot more deployment options than the Elementum button lock, but yeah, I'll talk more about that in just a second. Here it is compared to the Wrap Model 1 and the Wrap Model 2, right? Ontario Wrap Model 1, that's still going to be a bigger knife, right? The Ontario Wrap Model 2, much smaller knife. So yeah, this one is a lot closer to the Model 1 than it is to the Model 2, right? You guys be a judge of that right there. Since we're here, let's do a quick folded comparison there next to the Para 3, PM2, right? These obviously are going to be much wider knives to carry in your pocket. Great thing about the Elementum button lock, being a lot, maybe like stretched out a little bit from the original design, still very slim, right? Still very gentleman-like, and that's what I liked about it. That's why I also got it in all black, right? And you can see that right there. Here it is compared to the Demco brothers on both blade variants right there. So I want to say, they're just as tall, but obviously the Demco 80 20.5s are going to be a little bit wider, right, on the pocket. All right, so a quick comparison then to the Sencut brothers we were just looking at a second ago, right? It's going to be a lot closer to the Crawley than it is to the Saxy, right? So the Crawley there, right, it's going to be probably about the same width, whereas the Saxy, because of the blade, right, is going to be a little bit wider than these two. And last but not least, we have the Wrap Model 1 and Wrap Model 2. The Model 1 is going to be definitely wider. It's a much longer, wider knife. I want to say maybe the Model 1 is probably the closest on you know, being just as narrow as the Civivi Elementum, so a lot closer to the Model 2 than it is on the Model 1 right there. And in case you're wondering, we didn't forget about the Civivi family. We have the Civivi Elementum OG right here. It's probably going to be around the same width, and then the Ortis might be just a hair a little bit wider because of, you know, the blade sticking out right there. By the way, I found out the Ortis is the only knife that when you push the table, right, it likes to dance a little bit, just like that. Kind of gets annoying a little bit sometimes when I'm doing my reviews. All right, quick carry profile here, right next to the Para 3. All right, Para 3 a little bit thicker there. The Para 2 or PM2 is going to be arguably a hair bigger, but very, very comparable, right? Demko brothers of any kind, right? They're going to be a little bit slimmer than the Civivi. Compared to the Sencut Crawley, that's going to be a wider, right, fatter knife right there. Same with the Saxy. You guys be the judge of that. And then not by much, right? Not by much. Wrap Model 1, of course, is going to dwarf this guy. Look at that. Yeah, definitely a lot thicker right there. And the Wrap Model 2, all right, probably very comparable to the Wrap Model 2, right? The Civivi Elementum might be a little bit thicker than this guy. Next to the OG Elementum, all right, let's see. Hard to see, hard to line them up next to each other, but they are pretty much exactly the same width, which is very nice that Civivi did that. Here it is next to the Ortis. All right, about the same width as the Ortis as well. Okay, going back to that action really quick, right? So this guy has one deployment option, and that is this button right here. That is the only deployment option that this guy has. It does have black G10. I kind of went for this all blacked out version, right? Everything's blacked out. The hardware, the clip, the blade, the liners, the, you know, scales, right? And so, you know, there's lots of, I want to say, pros and cons with it being completely just button lock deployment only type of knife. Before I get into that, it does have a 14C 28N blade, which is printed right there, really tiny. I doubt the camera is going to even pick it up. This one is in all black. In typical Civivi fashion here, I'm trying to avoid not sneezing in the middle of the video. In typical Civivi fashion, you have a deep pocket carry right there, and yeah, that gets the job done. Very similar to the deep pocket carry on the original Elementum, right? Similar to the one in the Ortis. You can kind of see a resemblance right there, right? Very, very similar pocket clips, and I mean that's for a reason, right? They get the job done. See, unlike the Civivi Elementum OG, where you have a linear hole, on this guy you have this mechanism here in the back, which is very similar to how they did it in the Ortis, right? So you have just that one bar right there, and you could just pass your lanyard through it, right? So it's kind of interesting that they kind of went with that design instead of the lanyard hole on the original Civivi Elementum. As you guys already know by now, we do a hardware check in every video, right? My tools are very affordable, guys. You can find them in the description. This is part of the Strabito tool set, and it brings all kinds of screwdrivers and drill bits that you may need to take apart your knife, or even just in general for things that you may need to take apart in the house. Check out the links in the description below. They're affiliate links. They help out the channel at no extra cost to you. All right, so T8 on the pivot, and also on the frame here, right? These are going to be T8 as well. I want to say the pocket clip is definitely going to be a T6. So T6 and T8. All right, is that the case? Surely enough, right? T6 on the pocket clip. Oh, butterfingers. And then T8 everywhere else in the knife. So that gives you a good idea there on the hardware. I did want to mention, right, the pocket clip is reversible. You can put it on the other side as well. So that's something to keep in mind there also. As far as the inside, this guy, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but it is milled, and I'm sorry it's all black. It just makes it difficult for the camera. There you go. Hopefully you can see it from that angle there. So it is milled on the inside, which helps with the weight. That's actually the next bit that we're going to do here. So let's do a quick weight check, right, on this guy since we're here. For comparisons really quick, remember the Civivi Elementum was 2.8, and the Ortis, if you haven't checked out the review yet, the Ortis was 2.9. So both of these are under that 3 ounces. I guess golden threshold, right? So here we go. The button lock obviously is a little bit of a bigger knife, 8 inches overall, longer blade, comes in at 3.3 ounces, guys. 3.3 ounces overall weight. Let's do it one more time for fair measure. There it is, right? 3.3 ounces. At 3.3 ounces, guys, this feels like a very, very good EDC knife right here. And a lot of it has to do with the blade, right? The blade has to be a certain length and a certain weight in order for it to, be able to swing open and close the way it does on this guy. Also wanted to mention, so this is a drop point design, all right, just like the OG Elementum. There's some jimping going on right there in the top. You can probably see it from right there. All right, some jimping right there, which is very, very nice. Of course, you got the Civivi logo, which, it's a little bit smaller than the Civivi logo on the OG Elementum, but it makes sense. They had to make room for the button. There's a very good sharpening choil right here. So that's also very nice when it comes time to sharpening your blade. I did want to say, and maybe the light can pick it up a little bit. So I did get this guy in all black, and as I was EDCing it here and there, I did get some marks on the blade, right? So that's something to keep in mind if you're maybe not wanting to, put any streaks or marks on your blade. Maybe go for the satin versions out there, but I wanted this guy to be kind of like a gentleman type of knife in all black, and you can kind of probably see it from this angle a little bit better. It doesn't bother me because that's what knives are for, right? They're meant to be used, meant to be beaten, right? Meant to be implemented into I don't even know what I'm saying, but yeah, you guys get the idea. All right, let's do a quick blade stock thickness on this guy. Let's check out the blade here. Shouldn't be too different from the OG Elementum, so it's going to be, I want to say here, thickest part is going to be 0.11 inches, and at the very tip we should be dealing with 0.02, right? Pretty comparable to a lot of other knives that we have reviewed in the channel as well. I want to give credit to the fidgetability. There's your new word of the day. So this guy is very fidget friendly, right? So the way it works, you push the button and you don't just leave it pressed. You have to push and let go, swing your hand, and it opens, push and let go, and it folds shut, right? That's it. Simple as that. So you want to push and let go each and every single time, and then you get an action that looks like this. And by the way, when that knife is locked, there is no other way to open the blade except for pushing the button, right? Except for pushing the button. So that's something else you want to keep in mind with this guy. So you could carry this guy whichever way, right? That blade is not opening. And the chances of you hitting that button in your pocket are going to be slim to none, right? Because it definitely requires a certain level of pressure right there in order for you to be able to, get it to disengage the blade, right? And you can kind of see it for yourself. So if I put out an angle, push the button, you see the blade just swings out. That's a good thing about it, right? Very, very fidgety. I love EDC in this guy for the time that I have, and I also look forward to EDC in this guy every single time as part of my weekly, monthly rotation. I also would carry this guy for, let's say, a special event, or maybe if I'm going to somewhere where I'm, wearing a suit or what have you. Yeah, this is a very gentleman knife style knife, right? Because it's all black, very slim, right? The whole aesthetics of a gentleman knife, you got that all here with the button lock. Now, I will say this, right? Let me address the elephant in the room here. So you have two same cut siblings here, because again, they're part of the same company. And the thing about these guys is they have multiple deployment options. And that's my only gripe with the Civivi Elementum Button Lock, right? It's the fact that you can only open and close this guy with the button. And that's fine. And there's a lot of, again, fidgetability with that, which is great. And the knife is not a toy, and all that blah blah blah. Great, fine. But for people that do enjoy, a nice fidget knife and whatnot, right? The Sencut Crawley, right, gives you the option to still use the button lock, so you can still do the button opening and close just like the Elementum Button Lock. You can flip, right, just like the original Elementum. You can flip it open, which is still nice, right? You're probably saying, okay, Miguel, where they just put out a Civivi Elementum Button Lock 2, which has the button and the flipper. But then on top of that, the Sencut Crawley can also be thumb deployed, right, which I don't think that new Civivi Elementum can, right, thumb deployed. And maybe not on this one, but same deal with the Saxi. You can also, a fourth deployment option would be to reverse flick, right? So you can do that with the Saxi too. So I got 4 different ways to reverse flick, right? Thumb deployment, the flipper, and you always have the button itself, right? So a lot more options with these two, right? These two are up there and probably the most fidgetable knives. Let's even throw in the CJRB Pyrite. Look at this guy, right? This guy does not have a flipper, still has a button, right? But on top of that, you have thumb deployment. So you could also thumb deploy it, and you can reverse flick it all day, every day, as long as your index finger doesn't get in the way. But yeah, right there. So again, multiple deployment options. This should probably be a whole different video right there talking about fidgety knives and things like that. But you get the idea, right? I just wanted to drive home the point that what this OG button lock from Civivi on the Elementum was missing is multiple deployment options. And again, that's just a personal gripe of mine. You know, it might not be an issue for you. You may be just fine with that, right? You know, it might not bother you all that much. So with that in mind, I did mention earlier, it is deep pocket carry. When this thing is on your pocket, there's nothing showing whatsoever. And because you get it all black, the clip is also blackened, so it doesn't really call attention all that much. I want to say this guy is probably, it's gonna be a little bit handle heavy for sure. But yeah, the balance is about right there, a little bit behind the actual button itself. That's where it's balanced. So this is a drop point blade shape, very similar to the original one, of course, right? That's what makes an Elementum an Elementum. And so the same thing I said on the Elementum review still stands on this review, right? It's the fact that if you take every single blade shape of every knife out there, and you take every single handle shape of every single knife out there, and you kind of average them all out, right? You're probably gonna end up with a design very similar to, very vanilla design like the Civivi Elementum. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing, because for everyday tasks, right? And you have a knife that is this good looking, right? This ergonomically friendly, right? You definitely cannot go wrong, right? As you can see here, I can get a full 4-finger grip. There's plenty of handles still showing, no issues there. Yeah, questionable to forward choke on it. There's no finger choil here. That's a sharpening choil, so I wouldn't recommend that. And I want to say, you know, my fingers are well out of the way of the button, and you know, I wouldn't see myself pushing the button in any way unless I, you know, intentionally wanted to. That blade is rock solid in place. That blade is not going anywhere. So this is a very, very solid lock. And the way this works, if the camera can focus, right, notice when I push this button, look what happens to the blade. Right, you see it there? And then as the blade opens, right, this disc slides into place. Boom, and that's what locks the blade in place. Right, push the button again, right, you get the idea. We of course have to do the customary paper test here, right, so let's see. All right, look at that, even after weeks and weeks of EDCing, right, that is one thing that there are no questions about with EDC. That is one thing that there are no questions about with Civivi knives, right? They come super, super sharp out of the box, right? Right, and especially if the faster you make the cuts, the better, right? Look at that. All right, that one is all my fault because I cut the sharpening choil there. I'm running out of paper here, trying to give it a good cutting angle. But you see, it's getting the job done. Getting the job done for sure. And then keep in mind, guys, this is weeks and weeks after, you know, EDCing this guy and making daily cuts. Obviously, I'm not going to cut a tree down with this knife. I'm doing daily tasks like, you know, cutting cardboard, opening boxes, letters, you know, daily tasks around the house, cutting a rope here and there, stuff like that. But yes, definitely retaining a really, really good edge. All right, guys, so that being said, let's do a quick summary on this guy. Again, we have 14C 28N steel. We have this all black design that I went for with black G10 handles also. The liners, everything. Liners are milled. They're all black also. Deep pocket carry in black as well. It is a button lock and a button lock only. That is the only deployment. So love it or hate it, you know, that is the only deployment method this guy has. Honestly, though, I've grown to enjoy and love this guy for what it is, right? I like the fact that, you know, unlike some of the other guys, sometimes when I swing my Saxy or my Crawley here too much, the blade might want to jump a little bit, and that's because these blades actually don't lock in place. The great thing about this guy is that the blade isn't going to jump at all, right? Once the blade locks, it's locked for good. It's not going anywhere, right? Because it's locked in place and it doesn't deploy at all unless you push the button a second time. So that's definitely a great thing. Again, I like the longer size of the knife overall. Makes it EDCing it more comfortable than the OG Elementum for sure. I could definitely appreciate the extra length. I think the Civivi Elementum OG though kind of gives those folks that have more stricter laws and whatnot the ability to carry a knife that's under 3 inches of blade, whereas the button lock here, this longer size version, right, is going to be a little bit bigger obviously. So check your local laws. I'm not an attorney. All right, that being said, guys, going back to the original question, is the Civivi Elementum Button Lock the king for this year, right? As far as budget, as far as button lock, as far as fidgetability, right? And I gotta tell you, for the money that this guy comes in at, a little bit higher than some of the other budget EDC kings in the channel, but you do get what you pay for. And this guy, this is a rock solid knife right here. You're gonna have so much fidgetability with it. It is so solid. It is longer than the original Elementum, and it just has so much going for it right now. It is crazy. There's an updated version with the flipper, like I mentioned earlier, but this guy, even without the flipper, the fact that it's much longer of a knife, I mean, the answer to the question is yes, this is still king this year. Pick yourself one up if you don't already have it as part of your collection. I gotta tell you, you're not going to be disappointed. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If there's anything that you guys think that I'm missing, any feedback, any additional questions, concerns, anything like that, please let me know in the comments. I would love to answer any questions you may have or take any feedback that you may have for future videos. By the time you're seeing this video, by the way, chances are the Civivi Scintilla, this little guy right here, right, the review for this guy is probably already live on the channel. So if that's the case, I'm going to put a card right here for you guys to check that out next. Right, again, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Love you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.